Hey everybody, it's Aiden here once again and welcome to highlights from the non-championship round at Zandvoort as part of the Formula Challenge series. Now the reason for this being non-championship is because of an issue that affected more than 20% of the grid, which as per the rules means that the race is abandoned. So yes, we did have issues at Indianapolis, which meant the race there was non-championship and then got rescheduled to the end of the season, but this one will be chalked off entirely, so any results are just totally for show and don't count. A bit like the F1 race at Spa. So heading off on the formation lap here, for whatever reason the competition system decided, hey, I'm going to sort the grid based off the combined standings from Silverstone and the Nürburgring, so instead of starting 11th where you qualified, you'll be starting 8th instead. So David Mrocek, who qualified on the back row, was now starting 2nd. Now, I don't get it either, but screw it, at least we're having a race. Also, the track's wet. It decided to rain during qualifying, so the whole thing was just a comedy of errors, but still, experience of racing this car in the wet is always a good thing for when it actually happens. So, as I normally do for these highlight reels, I'll show you the first couple of laps or so of the race. So the 5 lights coming on and the lights are out. And it's a tentative start because, you know, wet tyres, wet track and all that. But as you can see, well, you can't see, went a bit too early on the brakes, got overtaken on both sides and just gave that guy ahead the tiniest of tap. He came back and then I just got absolutely rogered from behind. So I had to take to this sort of service road, escape road, whatever you want to call it, and use that to get back onto the track instead of using the gravel, sort of lifted off to allow space for drivers to get past to make sure that the rejoin was nice and safe. Then up to the banking at turn 3, trying to find the grip through here as well because I didn't know where the grip actually was. And there's a car off to the left-hand side, so just easing on the throttle up through the sort of S-bends over the top end of the track towards Skavlak corner, however it's pronounced. And then just drop a gear to 4th, trying to see where I'm going. Just following the plume of spray, couldn't really see ahead of me. Up to the back end of the circuit. These two corners are tricky in the dry. They were absolutely horrible in the wet. Car on the left goes a bit too wide, so I send it into the little gap. He goes offline. I take that position. Nice. Then to my least favourite corner on the track. I do apologise for any graphical abnormalities as one of the cars goes flying off to the side, and then I use the lack of momentum from the two cars ahead to sort of power on by and then get on the brakes for the chicane. Now this was tricky because I had to hit that curb, but thankfully the guy on the left went a bit too wide and I just swooped around the outside, a little bit of a wiggle, then got the power down, then up towards the final 2 corners, down to 2nd gear rather than 3rd because I didn't know where the grip was, and then ease on the power through AdmiralLaWind corner, and that is a lap of Zandvoort. At the end of lap 2 I got a better run through the final corner and managed to catch up to this pink and white traction car ahead, slipstream, and then had to find the braking spot on the inside on the damp part of the track, but managed to get through. It's given plenty of space and I had the better traction on the exit. You can just about see a dry line starting to appear. And then I was given a freebie with Robin Pansar stacked it at turn 3. Then coming up to the chicane at the end of lap 3, I almost bought the farm as well. I kept the position, but only just. It took a couple of laps to catch the next car, but again I had that better run through AdmiralLaWind corner and superior straight line speed. So much straight line speed that I was able to get back onto the dry line before the braking zone, so the position was mine before I even got to the corner. Even though a dry line was appearing, it still wasn't easy. That would have been a big accident. And on that same lap, I had another moment going into the chicane. That was scarier than the one before. Deja vu, I just been in this place before. Next I had to get past Stoyan Barbakov, who I had a great battle with at Indianapolis, but because of that dry line, braking on the inside was going to be a lot harder because of the lack of grip. I didn't get past this time, but I knew I'd have a chance later on. At the start of the next lap, I managed to get briefly ahead as we came across the start-finish line, but because I had to brake earlier, Barbakov could then try and make an attempt around the outside, but a combination of me understeering and him turning in meant we made contact. couple of laps later, I realised that the softs were the way to go and I was losing way too much time to the guys who had taken slicks around me. But the thing is, my engineer had accidentally disconnected me from Discord voice chat, so I was about 2 laps late to pit, and I dived into the pits without requesting the stop. Add on top of this, the game had decided that it was going to repair the damage I'd picked up at the start, and also whacked on a fresh set of wet tyres when I wanted softs. So even before I'd left the pit box, I was going to be a pit stop behind everyone else that was around me. And on top of that, in the panic, I hadn't hit my speed limiter at the right moment as I was trying to sort the stop as I was heading in, so I copped a stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane, on top of a super long stop that repaired all of that damage. RIP. So I had to serve that stop-go penalty, and then come back round and get the soft tyres that I needed. So after all of this, I was down in 19th place. Pretty much last at this point, and a lot of us have been lapped. It took a few laps to get my first positions back. Jim Parisis had hit the back of another car and then been clobbered by another one at turn 3, and up ahead you can see one of the cars losing its front wing, and I managed to catch back up to Kevin Morville as well. It took 5 or 6 laps to get to the back of Morville, so I was really on the back foot. The conditions were still tricky. Get a millimetre offline and that was it. You were going for a half spin like that. So any overtaking was going to have to be very carefully planned. I tried to make a pass on the next lap, but slick tyres on a damp track just wasn't going to work. I had to stick to that dry line or crash, so it was either force a mistake or be very, very brave next time round. On the next lap I got a stroke of luck because DRS got enabled. The game must have realised that the track was dry enough, and I used the DRS to get right alongside Morville. I had to brake earlier than Kevin, but as I took to the dry line he had to go onto the wet line, so I took the advantage and managed to get through. That's what happens when you leave space. I then picked up my last freebie of the race as another driver got onto the wet line and I managed to get through with Morville following behind. I had the pace over Morville, so it should have been an easy cruise to the finish line, which was probably only about a minute and a half away. But as I came through on what would have been my final lap, I binned it. Got onto the wet line and took a trip into the wall. I finished 13th. The results, well, they don't really matter. Davin Rocek won, starting from second and started on dry tyres with a full tank, and he managed to carry that all the way to the end. The track dried out faster than anybody anticipated. Arna was second for Zancho, and if this had actually counted as an actual race, David and Arna would have pulled away at the top with the top 2 positions in the standings ahead of Noah Roivers. There's the rest of them. It's, Monza next, so hopefully everything's working fine for that. But it was a good learning experience, learning how to drive this car on a drying track and also having to cope with a bad race, because it's probably the first properly bad race I've had all season. So Monza next, a track that should be slightly easier but is famous for those turn 1 chicane memes. So hopefully I have a better race and a better highlight package to bring you next time out. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Adam Ord. Have a great day wherever you live in the world. I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.